You're listening to The Stephen Torriello Show, building a platform of liberty for people in search of truth with a dash of hope and a life worth living. The Stephen Torriello Show. And now, here's Stephen.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. As always, thank you for tuning in. And as always, we have a lot to talk about. If you guys notice, like whenever we're through, whether it's an impeachment or the Mueller investigation or the Russia collusion hoax, the narrative is constantly changing. And so the Democrats and the corrupt establishment media, and well, I should say the establishment and their media apparatus, because they're all the same thing. Every time, they'll say a narrative like, oh, well, Donald Trump left classified documents in his bathroom. And then it comes out like, no, those weren't classified documents. Those were just a picture of boxes of papers. And then the narrative changes and it just constantly changes into other things. Well, now the narrative is, oh, well, Donald Trump wasn't cooperating with the subpoenas. That's why he got raided. Because people, they're starting to realize, like, yeah, the different treatments between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, they are pretty bad. They're pretty obvious. But, Donald Trump, he wasn't cooperating. So that's why he got raided. That's why he deserved to be raided, because he got a subpoena and he wasn't cooperating. Well, that's not true either. And you see, this is why you cannot have a trial where you have the Department of Justice leaking evidence. So you have one side telling the story by leaking it to their media apparatus, and the other side, the defense, can't do anything. They can't do anything except just deny it. And that's all they can do. And then slowly but surely, the correct information comes out. This is why our justice system is set up the way that it is so you don't have crap trials like this. Personally, if it was me, I would not wish this type of justice on anybody. This is so freaking un-American, man. It's not even funny. And so you essentially have a corrupt DOJ colluding with the media so that they can leak information strategically. That's what's happening. We have massive prosecutorial misconduct, and I'm not even a lawyer, and I know this is misconduct. I mean, any lawyer on the face of the planet will tell you that if the prosecution is leaking evidence against the defense, that's not good. That's illegal. Remember, nobody's above the law. Remember? So this is how this justice system is operating now. Like I said, I do not wish anybody to have a trial like this. I don't wish anybody to have justice like this. This is not justice. This is a tool that's being used as a weapon to bludgeon political opponents so that Joe Biden can win the election. That's what this is. This is 100% election interference. And so this just came out today. Hat tip to Christina Layla. New court documents show that DOJ prosecutor Jay Bratt, an Obamaite Russiagate DNC donor, redacted every reference to Trump cooperating with subpoenas. So this guy, because the American people were like, yo, look, we want to see this affidavit. We want to see this search warrant. We want to see what is the reasoning behind this search warrant and the SWAT raid on the former president of the United States. And so they unsealed the affidavit. Well, they unsealed it, but they redacted massive amounts of information. Well, guess what information was redacted? All the notions of Donald Trump cooperating with subpoenas. So not once, but twice did he cooperate with subpoenas. And this guy, Jay Bratt, wanted to hide that from the American people. Why do you think he would want to do that? Well, what's the narrative you've been hearing lately from the media? Oh, well, Donald Trump wasn't cooperating with subpoenas. That's why he got SWAT raided. Well, guess what? He was cooperating with subpoenas twice. All right. So Jay Bratt tried to bribe Walt Nauda's lawyer, Stanley Woodward, in order to get his client to testify against Trump. You guys remember that? Essentially, Stanley Woodward was looking for a U.S. attorney's position, and this guy, Jay Bratt, was like, it'd be a shame for anything to happen to that position you were looking for. You should probably have your client testify against Donald Trump, and that position may be there for you. This is disgusting behavior, folks. This is prosecutorial misconduct is an understatement with the stuff that we're seeing right here. So new court documents show Jay Bratt purposely redacted all references to Trump cooperating with grand jury subpoenas. Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart approved new aspects of the Trump Mar-a-Lago search warrant to be unsealed. Last August, the Biden Justice Department released a highly redacted Trump raid affidavit. Media organizations asked to unseal the affidavit in support of the search warrant. You guys remember that? We wanted to see what was happening. We were waiting for this affidavit to be unsealed so we could see exactly what were the charges, what was the meaning behind this raid. And so they unsealed it, but it was extremely redacted. And this is why it was redacted, so that the media can create a narrative to bushwhack the defense of Donald Trump. So it obviously looks bad, right? Like when you're like, well, he kind of did. If someone gives you a subpoena, you got to cooperate, right? Well, he was cooperating. And now we know he was cooperating because this was the stuff that was being redacted. Why do this for any other reason than to sway the minds of the public? This is disgusting behavior, man. This is not justice. So only a redacted version was previously unsealed. The newly unredacted search warrant affidavit reveals Jay Bratt used dirty tricks to make Trump look uncooperative. More proof the FBI raid was a political hit job. Yep. There's no other way around this, ladies and gentlemen. This is a sitting president of the United States using his attorney general and the entire Department of Justice to persecute his political opponent and interfere in a federal election. There's no other way around it. That's what is happening. The only problem we have is it's information warfare at this point, because now you have an extremely powerful media, which is the arm of the prosecution, that are swaying the minds of the public in order to build a narrative. So that they can use that narrative to sway the minds of the public, so therefore swaying the minds of a future jury pool. That is what this is all about. I'm so tired. And so what's going to happen next is, now that this new unsealed part of the affidavit, the unredacted version, now that this version has come out, now the narrative is going to change. So the Republicans are always playing defense. Okay, Donald Trump is always going to be playing defense. So whenever there's information that comes out, they're going to be able to build the narrative, throw it out there to the public, and then it's going to be up to us to play catch up. And then what happens is, by the time the truth comes out, these people already think that Donald Trump wasn't cooperating with grand jury subpoenas. This is what they do, folks. They've been doing this since 2016, when they could not accept the 2016 election and was trying to overthrow a duly elected president. Via investigative reporter Paul Sperry, Trump complied with 2 grand jury subpoenas, but Jay Bratt tried to hide this information from the public behind redactions. So redacted, page 2, additional documents bearing classification markings have been produced to the government in response to a grand jury subpoena. I am looking at the subpoena right here, and unfortunately this is audio only, so I can't show it to you, but I'm sure you're going to see it. This is going to be talk of the town today and probably for the next week. So, page 2 out of 10, here's the newly unsealed evidence of cooperation by Trump, complying with not 1, but 2 grand jury subpoenas that DOJ prosecutor Jay Bratt tried to hide from the public behind several redactions in the initially released affidavit in support of his Mar-a-Lago raid. This entire case just needs to be dismissed. This entire case stinks. It stinks. It's rotten. Right out the gate, the foundation is faulty. It is rotten. How can anybody say that this is justice? How can anybody say that this is equal treatment under the law? This is not. I would be outraged if this happened to anybody. Democrats, Republicans, Antifa, BLM. I wouldn't care. This is not justice. You don't get to just use the law as a weapon so that you can get rid of your enemies. That's not how any of this stuff is supposed to work. You're not guilty until proven innocent, okay? You're innocent until proven guilty. However, their tactic is, well, technically he is innocent until proven guilty, but hey, look at this. He wasn't cooperating with subpoenas, so that's guilty, man. Look right here. He's guilty. That means he's guilty. Oh, he pled the fifth. That means he's guilty. This is what they do. Unfortunately, there is a really, really cozy relationship with the Department of Justice and the media. So, another perfect example of this, did anybody know about any classified documents before the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago, took pictures of classified documents that were on the floor, and then leaked them to the media, and those pictures ended up on Twitter? Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, so who's being more irresponsible with documents? Donald Trump that had him locked up behind a padlock, which is something we're going to go through here in a second? Or the FBI that sprawled them all out all over the floor, took a picture and then leaked it to the media that the media put on Twitter? Who's being more irresponsible? Nobody even knew about these documents until the FBI started taking pictures and leaking them. So who is leaking classified information? Who's doing it? Who is a bigger threat to national security? Donald Trump that had classified documents locked away? Or the FBI taking pictures of classified documents, leaking them, and then putting them on Twitter? This is disgusting. The entire thing is disgusting. All right, so redacted page 18 says that he agreed to accept service of a grand jury subpoena. Here's the subpoena right here. Grand jury subpoena, related correspondence, and production of additional classified documents. The DOJ has advised me that on May 11th, 2022, an attorney representing former President of the United States counsel, I agreed to accept service of a grand jury subpoena from a grand jury sitting in the District of Columbia, sent to him via email by one of the prosecutors handling this matter for DOJ counsel. The subpoena was directed to the custodian of records for the office of Donald J. Trump, and it requested the following materials. And it goes through the materials here. And then page 18, agreed to accept service of a grand jury subpoena. Redacted, page 20, an extension was granted for compliance with the subpoena. Page 21, redacted, documents produced pursuant to grand jury subpoena. Documents produced pursuant to grand jury subpoena. So how is he not cooperating with the subpoenas? This is what I'm talking about, folks. All this is just smoke and mirrors. All of it is nothing but propaganda. And then they feed their base talking points so that their rabid dogs can go out on Twitter and just repeat these talking points. I see it on Twitter, on social media all day. You get into debates with these people, and they just literally repeat what they're hearing from Chris Christie on MSNBC, that Donald Trump was not cooperating with subpoenas. How is that possible? When this guy, what's his name? Jim Bratt? What the hell is his name? What's his name again? Jay Bratt. Jay Bratt knew Donald Trump was cooperating with the subpoenas, but he redacted the information in the affidavit. So guess what, folks? That means there was no need for an FBI SWAT raid. So that means everything that they're telling you is bullshit. Which is no surprise because they do this all the time. Like, they've been doing this for, 8, 9 years now? 9 years we've been dealing with this stuff. And this is why I always tell these people on Twitter. It's like, I don't know why you get your hopes up when you continue to listen to the same people that have been on the wrong side of every major issue the last decade. And they continue to listen to these people. Instead of just shutting up and being like, you know what, he is innocent until proven guilty. That's the way our justice system is. And then we'll see what happens. But no, they got to go out, spread their misinformation all over social media, and then trying to influence the public. And they don't care. They like it. These people are sick, man. They're emotionally and psychologically damaged people. There's something wrong with them. They would be flying ISIS flags if ISIS was cheering for the prosecution of Donald Trump. I'm telling you, these people are sick. All right, so where were we? So redacted, page 23, agreed to accept service of grand jury subpoena for footage from those cameras, provided a hard drive to FBI agent. Redacted, page 25, in response to a grand jury subpoena provided by FBI agents and DOJ counsel, a red-weld envelope containing documents. Redacted, page 28, a padlock was installed on the storage room door. So all this information that just came out today is all proof that Donald Trump was cooperating with subpoenas. So what the hell are we doing here then, folks? Like, what is this all about? And so once this catches on tomorrow or today, I'm actually recording this on Sunday. So by today, when this catches on, it's not even going to be talked about. Nobody's even going to mention it. And then from here on out, Donald Trump will be ever accused of just ignoring grand jury subpoenas because nobody is going to correct the record. And this is what they do. This is what they've been doing the last 8 years when it comes to investigations, when it comes to subpoenas, impeachments, whatever it is. They create the narrative, they throw it out there, and then it's the people have to play catch up. The only advice that I can tell somebody that is not involved in politics is do not listen to the legacy media. Fox either. Do not listen to these people because they are steering you in the wrong direction and they have a motive. They have a political agenda. And I'm telling you, truth is not one of them. Everything is about manipulating with this machine that we're dealing with this system, this club that you're not invited to. They have a motive behind everything. And their one motive is always, always, always to retain power. That is it. Republicans too. This is not a Democrat-Republican thing. This is the system versus the people. So I guess you could say, yeah, I'm anti-system. I'm anti-establishment. I am. Always have been. Even when I was a Democrat. Democrats used to be like me. Democrats used to be anti-wealthy elite corporate donors, but not now. Not now because all these corporate donors, wealthy elite people, all go against Donald Trump. So that's what Democrats are going to do because these people are sick. They are sick. And, you know, somebody else that's extremely consumed by Trump derangement syndrome is Chris Christie, man. This guy, I don't know. Don't we all know, like, what this guy's doing here? So why would he go on MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News? Why would they continue to interview this guy? He has contributed nothing to this society. He has contributed nothing to this country. The only image, and it's a pretty sad image, but the only image I know of ever seeing Chris Christie do anything was when he shut down the beach so his fat ass and his family can go sit on the beach. You guys remember that helicopter footage of the entire beach was closed down and there's Chris Christie's fat ass on the beach get sunbathing in a chair. Like, that's the only thing I ever remember this guy ever doing. And that's what it was. He has never done anything for anybody. He has nothing in common with the American people. None of these people do. The Elizabeth Warrens, the Chuck Schumers, the Mitch McConnells, the Kevin McCarthys, none of them have anything in common with the American people. This is why I say we got to stop treating our politicians like celebrities and start treating them like government employees. They're our employees, folks. We pay their salaries. So if we don't like something they did, then we have every right to be upset with them. Call them and fire them. You know, we treat our politicians like celebrities. Like Nancy Pelosi's worth $114 million. Most of it from her husband. And what I would say, an impeccable, and I would also say an impossibly perfect stock portfolio. The guy they're insider trading. How can you have any congressperson trading stocks when these people know everything that's coming down the tube? They can make or break a corporation. They can cut red tape for this corporation and then wrap red tape around another corporation. Like they should not be allowed to be buying stocks. That's why every single congressperson in our Congress is a millionaire. Now, regardless whether it's from before they were a congressperson or after, how would a person worth 10, 15, 20 million dollars have anything in common with a plumber or anything in common with the mailman? These people, I mean, they're so detached from regular America, it's not even funny. When's the last time any of them pumped their own gas? When's the last time any of them bought their own groceries? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. This is why we have an out-of-control, corrupt system in our nation's capital. The entire damn thing is just corrupt. So it's like when they spend your tax dollars, and that's another thing. These people are worth millions of dollars, and they're spending and putting the American people in debt. Trillions of dollars in debt. This Biden administration has spent $6 trillion in 2.5 years. $6 trillion in 2.5 years. And while we're busting our ass at work every day. And what's their plan? Raise their taxes. Raise their taxes. Tax the rich. You know, go in and look at, are they making Venmo payments over $600? Venmo payments over $600? Like, that's considered taxing the rich, targeting the rich and the wealthy? Like, is there some kind of trick that I don't know about where rich, wealthy people launder money in $600 increments on Venmo? Like 87,000 IRS agents? For who? It takes 87,000 IRS agents to target rich, wealthy, elite people? They're not going after them. They're going after us. They're going after the American people. Not the rich elites. People can't be this dumb. This is why I say this all the time. I tell my wife all the time, there's no way the American people are this dumb. There's no way. And so when Biden comes out with Bidenomics, I'm just like, do they really think the American people are that stupid? Like they can't look around and see how awful the economy is? It'll take a voter one day to realize how bad this economy is. One day of waking up in the morning, getting in their car, going to the gas station and seeing the gas prices, then going from the gas station to go grocery shopping, and then leaving the grocery store after spending $250 and getting 10 bags worth of groceries. And then have them go home and look at their electric bill. And then after they pay their electric bill, go look at their interest on their credit card bill. Like, like American people are not dumb. Like, all they have to do is just look around. So it's shocking to me that this Biden administration would adopt this Bidenomics. It's ridiculous. But they're going to do it. Why? Because the economy is the easiest thing to lie about. People don't get in the weeds when it comes to the economy. It's so complicated, you could fudge any number you want. It's so easy to manipulate the information and the data. So what they do is they'll say, during Joe Biden's administration has been the biggest decrease in fuel price in American history. And you're like, wow, that sounds pretty awesome. Well, how much is the gas? Oh, it's $3.50. But you're like, wait, it was just $2 3 years ago. What? How is that possible? Oh, well, no, he brought it down because it was $6 a gallon. So he brought it down to $3.50. You're like, wait a minute. Well, you're making it seem like this guy just gave us the lowest gas prices in American history. Oh, no. It was, because he raised it up so high, and then now that he brought it down a little bit, then, he brought the price down more than any other person in history. It's like, okay, well, that's what they're doing, folks. That's it. That's what they're doing. They're doing it with everything. Jobs. It's like, oh, Joe Biden's created more jobs than any president in U.S. history. And you're like, well, that sounds pretty good. And then you think about it, you're like, well, wait a minute, aren't we coming out of a lockdown? Well, that doesn't count. How does that count? Well, because we actually did bring back more jobs than any president in history in record time. So they can say that. But it's not honest. It's not coming from an honest place. It's coming from a place of manipulation, a place of trickery and deception. That's what this is. And so Joe Biden could say, oh, I created 13 million jobs. Yeah, but those aren't new jobs, dude. Like, those are people going back to work. And in most cases, people having to get 2 jobs, a second job, because of your stupid inflation that you caused with your war on energy. So this is why I tell people, man, just stop listening to these people. They're awful people. They have nothing in common with you. They don't like you. All they're doing is trying to retain power so that they can stay in their nice, comfy mansion, so that they can go out on their nice, comfy yacht. They don't give a flying rip about the American people. What Joe Biden could do is come out and say, you know, we're really starting to come out of the pandemic. This is a great course for us. We've got almost all the jobs back that we lost because the government locked people down and locked the country down, and we're almost back on target. But no, they don't say that. That would be honesty. That would be being honest to the American people. No, they got to go out and say, oh, Joe Biden has created more jobs than any president in American history. It's like, but there was just all these people were just sitting at home. So does going back to work, that counts as a new job? No. We didn't say new jobs. We just said jobs. See, just look around, folks. This is what's shocking to me while they're going to go through this Bidenomics bullcrap. It's actually disgusting. So you guys remember on Friday's episode, we were talking about the how we're in like this dystopian Orwellian nightmare, right? Like how nothing is what you think it is. Well, this is an actual fact now. The Biden administration, I've been telling my listeners since we started the show, we are living in like this George Orwell's novel, where like we have a government, this institution, just constantly lying to the American people. And like they're moving the Overton window and trying to normalize this manipulation, this deception. And so there was a judge that came out on July 4th. You may have heard about this, but I find this to be an absolute just amazing ruling. So a federal judge has issued a sweeping injunction Tuesday that likened the Biden administration to an Orwellian ministry of truth. That's a judge, folks. That is a judge that said that. Ordered numerous top federal officials and agencies to cease all contact with social media firms that could potentially interfere with First Amendment protected speech. So this all piggybacks off of all the censorship that was happening in the 2020 election. The Hunter Biden laptop story. That directly impacted our elections, folks. When you have 17%, this is something that I try and explain to people on the left all the time. You know, they talk about, you know, how Donald Trump shouldn't have challenged the election and how Donald Trump should have never sent the electors. You guys remember that? That's something they're going to try and indict him on in Georgia. He should have never sent the alternate electors. A separate alternate slate of electors, how he should have never sent them. He only lost by like 42,000 votes in 3 or 4 different states. And so when they say like Donald Trump should have just accepted his loss instead of challenging the election with all the shenanigans, the mail-in ballots, the clear and obvious fraud that we can clearly see because we had an election, over a month-long election. Like, people know there was something wrong with that election. Then you have government officials come out and say that it was the most safe and secure election in U.S. history in 3 days after the election. Like they were still counting ballots as these election officials were coming out and saying this is a safe and secure election. There was nothing secure about this election. It was the exact opposite. I've never seen an election conducted like this before in my life, and neither have you. None of us have, because we've never had anything like that before. Everybody's went their entire life knowing that we had election day, not election month. And so this is just normal now. Again, the government establishment, the bureaucracy, in conjunction with their media apparatus, have moved the Overton window to normalize month-long elections. Like, that's not normal, folks, in any realm. Month-long elections, mass mail-in ballots, mail ballots going to every single voter in the voter roll. You had freaking ballots going into empty parking lots. You had ballots being mailed in from empty parking lots. And this is all legit. These are facts. You trace the addresses of some of these ballots that were found, and they go to freaking parking lots. Like this, so this is not like kabuki theater. Well, it is. What they're giving us is kabuki theater. Nothing about what we've been witnessing the last 3 years has been real. All of it is just this massive narrative. It's like, and this is why we're living in like this George Orwell's novel. Because nothing is real. Nothing is the way that they tell you it is. Nothing. Trust me, I live, eat, and breathe the news. I read this stuff all day long, every single day. I'm on top of this stuff more than anybody I know. And I'm telling you, when you read as much news and articles and you look as much as I do in this stuff, you will begin to see that nothing that they tell you is real. You think Ukraine's winning the war in Russia? No, they're not. No, they're not. The United States is funding both sides of the war. You got these Shihad drones that the Ukrainians are shooting down. These Shihad drones that are committing kamikaze runs. Those are our drones, folks. We gave Iran. The equipment that's being used over there in Russia is the equipment we abandoned. I've done a show about this a long time ago. We are effectively funding both sides of this war. Why, folks? Nothing is what you think it is. You think this is really a war about peace and freedom for the Ukrainians? No, it's not. Do you think when Joe Biden leveraged $1 billion of taxpayer money to fire a prosecutor, you think he was doing that out of the kindness of his heart because he really wanted to rid corruption from Ukraine? This is why I tell people all the time, and I'm going to continue to say it. People need to stop listening to the legacy media. Believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. Because I'm telling you, nothing is what you think it is. This war is just the American taxpayer funding the weapons manufacturers, the government contractors, all of it, the entire corrupt system. Why do you think it was 6 months after Donald Trump left office, we were right back into another conflict again? Because it's how they pay the bills, folks. When's the last time we've ever been in peace or not at war with somebody? Never. The only time I've ever known us to not be in war and there was actually peace breaking out in the Middle East and around the world was when Donald Trump was in there, a billionaire real estate mogul from New York that was never in politics his entire life. So the one time we get an outsider in there, you start having peace happening around the world, you start having gas prices go down, you start having common sense, you're a livable wage, a better quality of life. You mean to tell me the only way we're going to get that is if we have an outsider as a president? Yeah, that's it. You cannot trust any of these people in this establishment. No matter how good their morals are, no matter how virtuous they are, 10 years in politics, you will be corrupted. It's a matter of time. It's in human nature. When you have that type of power, when you have that type of sway, when you're in that situation, it's just a matter of time. Me, you, anybody would be corrupted. 10 years. I always say 10 years. And I say 10 years because I support 10-year term limits on everybody. I know it's a complicated thing, but I think it should be talked about. I think we should start having serious conversations about term limits. And this isn't a Republican-Democrat thing. This is an American people thing. This is to hold down the system. There was a picture I seen, I want to say it was in the Federalist Papers, where they had a picture of a giant, and then they had a bunch of tiny little people, which was supposed to represent the citizens, and the giant was supposed to represent the government. All the little citizens, the little people, had the giant tied down to the ground with a bunch of ropes. And that was what the founders had in mind for this country. That's what the founders intended for this country. The American people were supposed to be able to hold this government down, hold it accountable. But what's happened is this giant has just broke free from these ropes and is just rummaging around, destroying everything. And the American citizens, the little people, can't get the ropes back around it. We can't lasso this thing because we have other little people tripping us or tricking us or telling us, yeah, we'll lasso this giant. Just, give me the rope and we'll do it. Give me the rope and I'll do it. And then we give them the rope and they don't do it. This is what I'm talking about. This is what happens when a government system becomes too out of control. It's so out of control, the institutions, the taxpayer-funded institutions that were supposed to be there for the people, to help the people, are now being used against the people. That's how you know that your system has been corrupted and you now have lost all control over this government. And that's exactly what we're witnessing right now. So everybody knows that the election was wonky. That was not an honest election. I don't care. I mean, when you start talking about the 51 intel agents that signed that letter so that Joe Biden can lie about that laptop, now we have polling. Many polls have come out and said that 17% of Democrats would have changed their vote for Biden if they had known about the Hunter Biden laptop. And so why didn't those 17% of Democrats know about the laptop? Because it was censored by every single major news outlet in the country. It was censored on social media, by Facebook, by Twitter. You guys remember this? We've been going through this with the Twitter files and the House Oversight Committee and Jim Jordan and all of them, Matt Taibbi, all of them. So we already know that the government was colluding with Twitter to censor that story. Why do that? What, just to keep the system, just to put the system back in play? Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And not only that, but you have this administration, the Biden administration, that just straight up they'll lie to people. And then when honest outlets and honest media outlets try and get the truth out there, they get censored. Like the vaccine mandates. All through the pandemic. The mask fiasco. Like every time we tried coming out, we'd get censored. So there was just as many scientists opposed to vaccines and masks as there was scientists that were approving the vaccines and masks. But the ones that objected to it, that went against the grain, went against the narrative, they were all censored. Their Facebook accounts banned, Twitter accounts banned. All by the behest of the United States government. All on behest of the Biden administration. The entire damn system was being used to censor conservatives. And so this ruling by this judge is just incredible. It really hits to the heart. When a judge comes out and compares the Biden administration to Orwellian Ministry of Truth, that's a big deal. We have a federal judge saying that the Biden administration, comparing the Biden administration to the Ministry of Truth in George Orwell's 1984 novel. So U.S. District Judge Terry Doughty dropped a mammoth 155-page opinion on Independence Day when most courts were closed. That's awesome. Right on our country's birthday. Amazing. In his ruling, Doughty declared the federal government's efforts to push back against disinformation campaigns related to COVID-19 as arguably, quote, the most massive attack against free speech in the United States history, unquote, in which it, quote, almost exclusively targeted conservative speech and blatantly ignored free speech rights, unquote. Yeah. Hats off to this judge. And you know what's crazy is the Biden administration is fighting this. So the Biden administration essentially is telling the American people, we want to lie to you. Not only do we want to act like the Ministry of Truth out of a George Orwell's novel, but we should be allowed. The underlying lawsuit was filed by Republican attorneys general in Louisiana and Missouri. They alleged that through both public and private messages and meetings, White House officials coerced social media platforms to suppress protected free speech. The complaint alleges that on some occasions, executive branch officials threatened social media companies with antitrust legal actions or even eliminating Section 230, the law that protects platforms from liability for users' posts. The Biden administration denied the allegations, arguing that the lawsuit is little more than misinformation itself, a far-ranging conspiracy theory, and saying that allegations of threats and coercion are unsupported by evidence. What other evidence do you have? You literally have Twitter employees under oath testifying, saying that, yes, the FBI contacted me, got in touch with me, or they had their own Slack channel between the government and Facebook, or the government and Twitter, and was telling Twitter which accounts to ban, which things to block. Like, what evidence, what other evidence do you need? That is direct collusion from the United States government and social media platforms, the media. So, I don't know what other evidence do you need? Is there really anybody out there that doesn't, that truly believes there was no coercion or no collusion between the government and social media platforms like Twitter? There can't be people out there that believe that. I don't think so. I think they know, and I think they know and understand that the government was colluding with Twitter and other social media platforms, but they agree with it. They like it because it benefits them politically. It benefits their party. Because remember, folks, it's party over country. Party comes first, just like good little totalitarians, like a bunch of Bolsheviks. So the judge disagreed, essentially finding that alleged disinformation is still free speech, and the administration's efforts to get social media companies to moderate it amounted to unconstitutional government action. Yep. I was saying this from day one. Do you guys remember they were literally trying to come out with a Ministry of Truth, and the American public just slapped it down and completely disagreed wholeheartedly, and then they just got rid of it? They're like, no, we're not doing that. No, we just went ahead and canceled it. They still did it anyways, folks. They're still doing it. I'm sure they're not doing it through Twitter. They may be. I don't think so. But I guarantee, if you think Twitter was bad, what do you think Facebook looks like? Can you just imagine? You guys remember with Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan, when he essentially admitted that the FBI contacted him and said, hey, heads up, there's going to be misinformation coming your way, and it's going to be a conservative misinformation, so you just go ahead and make sure you censor that. And they did. The guy admitted to it. What do you mean? How can anybody be out there denying that the government was colluding with social media platforms? You had the owner of Facebook come out and say that the government, the FBI, contacted them and said to censor whatever information was getting ready to come in. Censor it as Russian disinformation or hacked material or whatever thing they wanted to call it. But either way, it got censored on behest of the FBI, of the United States government. Quote, American citizens have the right to engage in free debate about the significant issues affecting the country, unquote. The judge wrote, adding that, quote, the evidence produced thus far depicts an almost dystopian scenario. Whoa, dude. This judge is going off the chain. This was a 155-page ruling. Obviously, I'm not going to read the whole thing, and I haven't read the whole thing yet. Doughty found that although the case is only at a preliminary phase, the plaintiffs are likely to succeed on the merits because the Biden administration's conduct likely constitutes, quote, viewpoint discrimination to which strict scrutiny applies. Doughty's recounting of the Biden administration's position, framed largely in the language of right-wing talking points, left little room for doubt as to where the judge stood. Quote, while not admitting any fault in the suppression of free speech, defendants blame the Russians, COVID-19, and capitalism for any suppression of free speech by social media companies, he wrote. Although the COVID-19 pandemic was a terrible tragedy, plaintiffs assert that it is still not a reason to lessen civil liberties guaranteed by our Constitution. Agreed. And you know what? If they didn't censor people, you know how many people probably could have been saved if some of these doctors and scientists that were objecting to the vaccine, objecting to the way that we were treating the pandemic, objecting to the procedures and protocols that we were doing with the breathing machines and the certain medication they were using. How many people would have lived if people weren't censored? How many people would be alive today if the federal government was not colluding with Twitter to censor doctors and scientists? How many? And why the hell do these people from Twitter, who the hell do they think they are to sit there and tell a doctor or a scientist that they're spreading misinformation? Who the hell do these people think they are? This is why you don't censor people. This is exactly why. People need to be held accountable for this. We can't just let this go. I'm so sick of these awful, awful things happening to our country. And nobody is held accountable except for one side. One side is held accountable for anything they do wrong. The Republicans, the conservatives. Dr. Fauci wasn't held accountable. Dr. Birx wasn't held accountable. Nobody was held accountable, even though the government was colluding with pharmaceutical companies to force a freaking vaccine on millions of Americans against their will, damn it. With threat of their livelihood, against their jobs, lose their jobs. Take this damn shot or lose your freaking job. It was disgusting then. It's even more disgusting now. I want people locked up for this. I want people in jail for this. Why do you think Dr. Fauci retired as soon as Republicans got power in the House? This little bastard was colluding with pharmaceutical companies. He's a multi-freaking millionaire. Off of your dollar, off of your dime, your hard-earned dime, wherever you're at right now listening to this, busting your ass, I'm sure. Your money's going to people like Dr. Fauci. Your money's going to people like Mitt Romney and Liz Cheney. Maybe not Liz Cheney now, but she's still a millionaire. She got plenty off the taxpayers. These people, these politicians, these career politicians have contributed nothing to this country. They contribute nothing to society, and they have nothing in common with the American people. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to once and for all drain this damn swamp. My God. It is disgusting. It is a disgustingly thick swamp. I don't care which side you're on, Republican, Democrat, whichever. But when you now have a judge, a federal judge coming out and saying that the Biden administration was acting like the Ministry of Truth from a frickin' George Orwell's novel, then we got a big issue. This isn't hyperbolic anymore. This is real stuff happening. You have and I've been saying this for months, we have a system that is turning into totalitarianism, and nobody is going to benefit because once they are done targeting their enemies, they're coming after the rest of the people. So all the Bolsheviks that are supporting this because they benefit, because it makes them feel good when they see their fellow Americans that they don't agree with politically being locked up or persecuted, they're coming after them next. Because just like in every other totalitarian regime ever in the past, once they persecute their enemies and they're done with them, they come after the people that put them in the positions of power in the first place. Why? Because they know those people, if they were powerful enough and influential enough to get them into their positions of power, then they can also bring them out of their positions of power. And so they are the next biggest threat. And in some cases in history, they're the first. As soon as the totalitarians, the brown shirts, the little people walking around supporting the big state government, supporting the government police with badges and guns, as soon as the Bolsheviks got their politicians and got the people they wanted in power, the people in power come after them first. Because they are the biggest threat. Because if they were that influential and powerful to put them in that position, they can take them out of that position once they realize they made a mistake. And so they go after them next. That's how it's always been in the past. And so this is what concerns me, is that nobody is going to be accountable for any of the stuff, the censorship, the lying, the manipulation, the data manipulation, the freaking vaccine mandates. My God. Luckily, I was not forced to get a needle. They didn't stick a freaking needle in my arm. But I know tons and tons of people that regret it. I know some people that are worried every single day. Like they don't know if this affected their health or not. All this by threat of your job, threat of your livelihood. You had people having to choose between their freaking jobs, their livelihood, the support of their family, or take a shot from the United States government colluding with big pharma companies. From Pfizer. It's disgusting behavior. These vaccine mandates will go down as probably one of the single biggest mistakes ever made by the United States government. And you can't even sue these people. You can't even sue the pharmaceutical companies. The American people that are having any kind of negative side effects from these vaccines cannot even hold anybody accountable. You have people's lives being ruined, in some cases, permanently, with negative side effects from a vaccine that they were forced to take against their will by threat of their livelihoods. Have you ever witnessed anything more totalitarianism than that? I'm telling you folks, my listeners, anybody that's listening to this, I'm trying to warn you. We are watching the rise of totalitarianism right here in the United States of America, and it's terrifying. I would not be behind this mic. I would not be in the studio talking to you if I did not think I needed to. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to step up and start talking. People need to start spreading the word. We are dealing with the rise of a totalitarian regime, and we have 2 years. If we do not change course in the next 2 years, the entire damn thing is over. It is over. There's one thing standing in their way, and that is our democracy, our election system. And I don't know about you, but in 2020, I don't think anybody trusts the election system now. Not after that. It was, I think everybody knew that there was something wrong with that election, but you had a system. You know, you had the system that got their guy that they wanted across the finish line. And so the system was reluctant to look into anything. Why would they do something that would jeopardize their retention of power? They wouldn't. And so a lot of people will tell me, yeah, but the election's rigged. Why even vote anyways? Because what else are you going to do, ladies and gentlemen? What else are we going to do? You have to vote, or else they win. You forfeit and they win. We can win. You just have to vote overwhelmingly. You know, they can cheat and change any numbers they want, but just know this, there's no COVID this time. They have nothing to hide behind. I wouldn't put it past them to create another pandemic. Who knows? Maybe they created that one in 2020. I think that's something we all thought about in the very beginning. As soon as it started happening, I'm like, okay, what is the system up to now? I thought in the very beginning, and this may be the case, and I know this show's going to get demonetized now, so I know this isn't going to get out there unless you guys share it. That's the only way the show's going to get out there, because YouTube's not going to do it. When the pandemic first happened, I thought the system, the establishment, the corrupt Washington bureaucracy we have in our nation's capital, I thought they created the pandemic. Like, I knew there was people getting sick. I didn't know how serious it was. And then a couple weeks passed, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is real now. And then I'm like, well, what's the motive behind this? Who benefits? That is something that everybody needs to ask themselves. It's something that I learned from a very wise man named Dennis Prager. He said, always ask yourself the question, who benefits? You ask yourself that question, and it will always lead you in the right direction. Who is benefiting from the decisions being made in 2020? Who benefited with those decisions of the pandemic? That's one thing I hold a grudge against Donald Trump for, man. I get locking down the country for the 2 weeks. You guys remember that 2 weeks to slow the spread? And then he wanted to open up back at Easter, and everybody called him a murderer and a grandma killer. And he gave control to Fauci. And look what happened. Look what happened when Donald Trump went against his gut feeling. He should have stuck with his gut, man, and opened back up. And we would not be here right now. I guarantee it. We would not be in this situation we're in. Donald Trump probably would have won re-election, because everybody knows if not for the pandemic, Donald Trump would have won in a landslide. I think it would have been like a Reagan landslide. It would have been like a 49-state landslide. But the media, and this is why I think it was on purpose, the media used it, weaponized it, put the death tickers at the bottom of CNN and MSNBC and all the left-wing Pravda outlets. They put the death tickers, the COVID death tickers at the bottom of the screen, rolling across the screen every 30 seconds of how many innocent Americans died. And then they would insinuate that it's all Donald Trump's fault. And that was the narrative. For the longest time, a lot of people thought and blamed it all on Donald Trump. And then a year and a half later, they realized, man, there was really nothing he could have done. And in fact, some of the things that the decisions he made early, like the canceling the flights from China, canceling travel, the travel bans, if not for that, may have been millions of more people dead. We know that now. But here it is. They called him racist and xenophobic because of that. Look, folks, I know I didn't get into a whole lot of stories today. It was just something I wanted to talk about. You know, you get on social media and you just see the direction that the media is trying to pull the country, the direction that they're trying to manipulate with. And one of them is just lies. It's just, they are running this campaign. The Biden campaign is going to be purely on propaganda, information warfare. It's pure propaganda. So they are going to be arming up, and they are going to be coming out in force with nothing but propaganda. The sad thing is people don't find the truth out fast enough. It takes too long. You know, they lie about something, and then you have to wait 2-3 months to actually get the truth. Like with this Trump document thing. For how long have people been saying Donald Trump is in the situation he's in because he went against grand jury subpoenas? How long have people been saying that? And then here it is, you find out that he was cooperating with grand jury subpoenas, but the federal prosecutor redacted all that information in the affidavit. The reason why the American people wanted the affidavit because they wanted to see what was going on. And then the prosecutor redacted all the information that vindicated Donald Trump. And then these people had the ability for the next 6 months to go out there and say that Donald Trump's in the situation he's in trouble because he went against subpoenas, when he was cooperating with not one but 2 subpoenas. All this was redacted from the American people, hidden. Why is the government, why is the federal prosecutors, why is the Department of Justice hiding this information from the American people? Because it's a system, folks. It's a system. And the one person that is the biggest threat to their party, to their club that you're not invited to, is Donald J. Trump. And they know they have to get rid of him or their game is over. So I tell my listeners, just like I always do, you have a decision to make in 2 years. Go out, bring 10 people with you, talk to your neighbors, share the show, share this episode, just talk about it. Make video clips or audio clips, put them on TikTok. Spread the word. It's time to get the truth out there. Donald Trump was cooperating with the Department of Justice. Donald Trump was cooperating with subpoenas. Twice. So that narrative goes away. But unless conservatives and pro-American people talk about it and get the truth out there, then all the people that don't pay attention to politics aren't going to know. And they're forever going to assume that Donald Trump is in trouble because he was ignoring subpoenas. And that's just not true. And if we had an honest Department of Justice, it's not justice anymore. I don't know what it is. It's the Department of Biden now. It's the Department of the system now. The Department of the Swamp. That's what it is. We have, if they didn't redact that information in that affidavit that the judge ordered to unseal, then people would know that. So what's going to happen is the truth's going to get out there. When you guys do talk about it, that narrative's going to catch on, and then the people are going to catch on, and then the media is going to come out with some other bullshit narrative. And then we're going to have to defend that one. We're going to have to wait for the honesty to come out with that. We're going to have to wait for the truth to come out for that. So, look, I hope you guys talk about this. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, share the show with your friends and family. And then we can change the course this country's going in, folks. We can. We just got to enlighten our fellow Americans. That is it. If you know somebody that has their head in the sand, not into politics, get them in politics. Inform them of what is happening so that they can make an informed decision in 2 years. The biggest problem we face right now is uninformed Americans. That's what we face. That's our biggest problem. And how we change that is by talking about the situations, getting the truth out there, sharing episodes like this, sharing any episode, sharing any show that you want. The biggest thing we can do is just share information, share the truth. And then that's all we got to do. And then vote in 2 years and get them to vote and get 10 other people to vote. And that's it. So thank you guys for tuning in to today's show. If you guys want to get a hold of me, again, I'm going to leave these articles, this 155 page, I'll leave the 155 page ruling in my, the injunction in my podcast description, so you can go ahead and read it. I'm going to read it. I just have so much other stuff I gotta do. So, I read it. I read a few pages of it, the most important pages. So I'm going to talk about this more probably in the next episode, because there's a lot more stuff. This is going to be talked about a lot this coming week. So you're going to be hearing a lot about this. And I think it's great he did it right on America's birthday. That's awesome. So I'm going to leave all the information in my podcast description. So you guys, if you want to share the exact articles I'm getting my information from, you can just go to my podcast description and you'll find it there. And thank you guys, as always, for tuning into the show. And if you guys want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me at steventorielloshow@gmail.com. I'm trying to come up with a better email so you guys, it's easier to remember. I know my last name's kind of difficult to work with, so don't worry. It's not just you. It's been like that my whole life. So, as always, thank you guys for tuning in, and I want you guys to have a good day, have a great week. God bless you, and God bless America. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.